Am I cooler? Do I look like more of a podcast person whenever I have a laptop up? I actually keep it up, and I think a lot of podcast people do it just for like research stuff. Like if they say something that is like possibly not true, you don't want to sound like an idiot. You don't want to like come off and say something that's just absolutely off premise and possibly say something that's really not true and get in trouble for it. But it's late. It's like, I don't know, I'm recording this at like midnight. Not that you guys care at all, but this was the only time I could get the podcast in. And every one of these episodes, I'm enjoying it more and more and more. You guys are giving me more and more feedback literally every episode, and every episode it seems to just hit more people, and you guys seem to enjoy it, and you guys, I don't know, just the feedback is amazing, and I love doing it. I love doing these podcasts. I love doing these podcasts. Today's been an interesting day. I was going to therapy once a week. I think I was going once a week, and I did that actually, you know what, I'm trying to figure out the best way to break this down. So this past year has been the most growth I've had in my entire life when it comes to every kind of maturity level, like every kind of category of maturity that you could break down. I have progressed on every single category, emotionally, mentally, experiences, self-talk, self-love, mindfulness, intelligence, within books and within other people. This past year has been a roller coaster of emotions and life, and it's been one of the most scary, one of the most fearful, one of the most depressing, one of the most exciting, one of the most confusing, one of the most loving, one of the most fearing and dark years of my life. And I don't think it's a coincidence that at the same time that all those emotions were going on, the other side of it was just positive emotions and growth and intelligence and experience. So for you guys that don't know, this past year, my girlfriend and I, we went through a rough time period, and we ended up, we had a little bit of time apart from each other. And it's been a year since that happened, and within that year, so after that happened, I never got angry. Like, I never got really angry at anybody. The only person I got mad at was myself, which for the first time in my life, I wasn't able to place blame on anybody. And not that I was able to do it before, but I chose to go that route rather than taking a route of looking at myself, seeing my flaws and picking at myself. I've always chose the route of the easier one, picking somebody out and blaming them for my downfalls and my struggles. And I think that's what people do. I think that's our innate, that's our first instinct, is to go that route. And I was doing it for so long, and this past year I hit a wall, and I tried to, trust me, I try to look around, I try to pick people to blame, and I try to make up excuses and reasons why I wasn't where I wanted to be. And everywhere I looked, I just couldn't, it just wasn't, I felt like a fake. And it required me to sit down with myself and sit down with my own thoughts. And I ended up, I remember I was out fishing. I was fishing for weeks. I got into fishing, and I got into serial killers, which were a very interesting combo. I was depressed, and I felt like life was falling apart, because I I lost this person who did check off every box, and I couldn't make up a reason why I shouldn't be with them, because nothing was them, it was me. And I was depressed more than anything. Not like life is falling apart, but you had full control of this and you didn't take care of it, and you chose the lazy route. You chose a route where you just didn't work on yourself. You didn't take care of your responsibilities. You acted like a child. And that that really that got to me, and it depressed me, and it made me fall apart. So I spent a lot of time with myself, spent a lot of time with my father, and I spent a lot of time talking to him about what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And he gave me great advice. But the best thing I ever was able to do, and the best thing I ever did do, was I decided one day to just look for a therapist. And people say a lot of things about therapy. You can say therapy is only for rich people. You can say therapy is bullshit. You can say I don't need someone to talk to me and listen to me. Or you can say I've just pushed through everything, but that's fine. You can say all that. But I think you should say all that after you give it a try. And not just one try, but as many tries as it takes. And I was 21 at the time. I'm 23 now. I actually just had my birthday a few weeks back. And I was on my parents' health insurance, and I was looking for a therapist. And I went fishing one day by myself to a pond that I grew up near Allen Pond in Bowie, Maryland. And I was feeling fucking lost that day. Like that loss where everything that I do, everything that I know myself as, I wasn't doing. So I wasn't managing my weight. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't hanging out with friends. I felt like I was just taking up space. So I went fishing at this pond, and hours went by, and I didn't catch anything. I wasn't really trying to catch anything. I was just trying to get through the day. Actually, what I was trying to do was not cry, and being in public made me cry less. And also, what it did is it forced me to see that although what I was going through was really hard, and although I was feeling very depressed, and I was feeling very woe me, and I just wasn't doing well, I could look around and I see some people weren't doing well. And that's something that I've always done. I've always been able to look whatever you're going through. If you just step outside of your area, you can see so many people doing the opposite. And that's what I was doing today. I wanted to go see families. I wanted to go watch families, as weird as it sounds. I wanted to go see people cooking for the family, birthdays. I wanted to go see people fishing with their grandparents. I wanted to go see people skateboarding and just laughing and having lemonade stands. And so I did, and I took my fishing rod, and I remember I was just walking around the pond, couldn't really find any fish. I couldn't find a spot to catch any fish, and I kept trying. And then I grabbed my phone, and I kept telling myself, like, you're going to call a therapist now. And mind you, I don't know anybody that went to therapy, at least no one that told me about it. But I also wasn't asking because I was embarrassed, because it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And I don't know where that embarrassment came from. I think it came from just the world I grew up in. It was very push through it or figure it out on your own, or everybody has issues. So I almost felt selfish to be in a position where I feel like I needed to have somebody else listen to me. That's all I wanted. I just wanted someone to listen to me. I didn't want anyone to tell me anything for a while. So I got on my phone. I looked up therapists near me who take insurance, and this person popped up, and And I also wasn't looking for a guy. I didn't want a guy therapist. I didn't want another dude telling me what I should and shouldn't do. I wanted a woman. I wanted a lady to give me advice. Nothing anti-guy or anything. I've always had a weird thing with dudes. I never look for them for like life advice. I always feel like they tell you what you want to hear. Besides a few people, like best friends and maybe in like my father. But most women, most girls, at least in my experience, tell me what I need to hear. Yeah, that's. I'm trying to think what I just said. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's why I chose a girl therapist. I just didn't want to listen to another dude. Like when people ask me why I chose a girl, I literally go with this. Well, I didn't want someone else to be like, hey man, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. Like I didn't want that. I didn't want to be demanding. I wanted to be nurtured. I wanted someone to just listen to my thoughts and treat my thoughts like a newborn baby, and like take care of them and really not try to find a solution. I didn't want a solution. I just wanted to talk. I just wanted to tell somebody how angry I was at myself. I just wanted to tell somebody how depressed I was feeling. I just wanted to tell somebody how frustrated I was at the world and how unfair the world was being. I didn't want someone to tell me it gets better. I didn't want someone to tell me some people have it harder. I didn't want somebody to tell me keep your head up and keep moving. I didn't want that. I wanted to tell somebody all those things, and I wanted them to say, I hear you. I understand. Because that's what I needed, and I knew maybe not, but I knew that I felt like for myself I had to go to a girl, a woman I trusted. And so I looked up girl therapists that take insurance, and I found this lady, and I was looking back at it now, I get like panic attacks thinking about doing that, because for me, I've never been good with like social interactions. Like to get on a phone call with somebody is absolutely terrifying for me. Like I work, I make phone calls sometimes. I make phone calls to people. I contact people, and I get so anxious about it. I psych myself out. I get so nervous to just talk on the phone, and I don't really know why, but I do know that it just scares the hell out of me. And like making phone calls to doctors, or making a phone call to UPS, or just making a phone call, or picking up a phone. Like there was times in my life where I was so broke, and like now when I just don't have a lot of money and things are tight, that I get scared. You guys might relate to this, but I get scared when I get a phone call, because in my mind it's the IRS coming to arrest me. I pay my taxes. I've always paid my taxes. I've never not paid my taxes. I pay all my bills on time. I take care of all my finances. But in my head, I have like this theory that like the IRS is coming out to like lock me up and throw me in jail. Anyways, sidetracked. So I just wasn't doing well, man. Weeks went by, and I just remember going to sleep. I didn't feel grounded. I didn't feel grounded. I didn't feel any sense of control. I didn't feel direction. I didn't feel reason. I didn't feel colors. Like I didn't feel any colors. I just felt black, like dark and gray, and just no color. I let my hair go. I let my weight go. I didn't go to the gym. But I started working all the time. At first I didn't work like at all. But then I started working, and then when I started working, I was just killing myself. I was working Sorry guys. I was working 7 days a week, 2 shifts a day, sometimes 3 shifts a day, sometimes fucking 18-hour shifts and for 4 days in a row, and I was doing this because this is how I dealt with issues. This is how I've always dealt with my issues. This is how I've always been able to get myself through situations. Is I would just commit physical suicide to myself. I would drain myself so much that I didn't have the mental capacity to think about anything, and that's what I did. And I was so good at it. And where I was working at the restaurant, I was able to pick up shifts. Like, I was able to just go in and work. There was always a spot for me. I was managing, so I could always go in. I was getting paid salary, so I could always go in and just hang out with somebody there. And I did that, and it didn't do anything. Nothing good came from it. I was spiraling out. I mean, I was spiraling out of control, and I was spiraling out of control because I knew that there was something that I had to fix, but I did not have the balls. I did not have the nerve to fix it because I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to look within. It was so much easier for me to just put it off. I was drinking, and I don't drink that much at all. I was drinking. I was having drinks at night, but not like, this is what scares me about alcohol, for me at least, is I don't know if I have alcoholic tendencies. I don't think I do. I'm very obsessive, but when I do drink, it's never socially. Like, I never drink with other people. I drink with my girlfriend, and if I don't drink with her, I drink by myself, and that scares me. I drink like an alcoholic. I drink in a dark room with a movie on, with a football game on, all by myself. And that's what I was doing, and I was just eating everything and anything. I wasn't going to school, and I was just having dark thoughts. I remember going to a baseball game, and this is not a joke. You shouldn't joke about this, and I'm not joking about this. I'm not making this up. I remember going to an Orioles baseball game, and we're sitting up in the this wasn't during this time, but this is just an example of how dark it does get for me, and how dark I know it gets for a lot of people. And I know that if you're going through something, it will get better, but you have to really just give it time, and you have to fix yourself. You can't rely on anybody else to fix you. You can't blame it on the world. You got to blame it on yourself. But that's a good thing, because then you can fix it, right? If you blame it on yourself, then it's no one else's fault, and then you have control of it. But I remember one time I went to the Orioles game, and it's like Camden Yards, and they're backed up right next to a huge warehouse. And I'm looking at this warehouse, and the entire game, I look at it like every other inning. I'm just like, how long would it take for me to just get off the top story, just jump off and hit the ground? Like, would I die immediately? And I was like, I don't know if I want to die immediately. I think I want to suffer. I think I want to like get like a brain hemorrhage or something. I want to slowly die. And like, I don't know if I even told my therapist that, but I told my sister that, and I told my family that in the car, and the way home, they were like, what's going on with you? And I told them, and it's not that they didn't believe it, they just didn't understand. I think the way they were brought up is that's like almost like cowardly, and that was how I was feeling. And I think for everyone that knows me, those words don't come out often, and so when they do come out, it can be concerning. But that's where my mind can't go. It can go that way, and I knew that. I knew that this time around, and I was like, I don't want that. It wasn't that far yet, but I did let my weight go. I did let my hair go, which for a lot of people isn't a big deal. But for me, like when my hair gets long, there's either two things that are happening. Two things, one of them ties into both of them. Two things are happening. I'm either broke as hell, because I get like a $30 haircut, $18 haircut, and I always tip $12 because I'm not going to give them $5 tip or give them $30 and ask for $2 back, or I'm going to give them $30 anyways, $12 tip. So that's the first thing. I'm either financially broke, or the other option is I'm just depressed as hell. or I'm really busy, and then I put on a lot of weight in both situations, or I feel fatter if I have long hair. Even though I may not put on weight, but when I cut my hair, I literally, for me, it feels like I lost like 10, 15 pounds. So that was going on. I was drinking and eating everything and anything. I was getting to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was waking up at noon, and I was going because I work at a restaurant, so I could go into work at 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And I would just get off work, and I would just stay at the bar. I wasn't drinking at the bar, but I would just stay there. I love the people I work with, but that just wasn't me. I wasn't the one who clocked out and stayed at work. I clocked out and I was gone all the time, every night. The only times I would stay is if I was like closing down the restaurant. And so I was staying there, and I was getting home, and I was acting reckless. Like when I was driving home, I just wasn't. I guess sometimes I didn't have both hands on the wheel, or sometimes I'd be looking left a little too long, and a lot more people flashing the headlights at me because I forgot to turn on my headlights, and just living reckless and not thinking things through, and just being impulsive and hurting people because I would say things that just weren't true, but they were on my head or they weren't thought out, and things were not going well. And so I'm at this pond and I'm fishing, and I was like, I gotta pull my shit together, man. I gotta figure this out. Like, this is no one's fault, dude. Like, this is no one's fault besides me. And I was acting like a coward. I was acting like a coward. So I picked up the phone call. I dialed, local therapists who take insurance, girls. I don't know if I put girls. And I just in this little place, this little house, and I called. And like I said before, I don't know if you guys know this, but I do not like making phone calls. I don't like talking. I could talk to people face to face all day, but like over the phone, I just don't feel like. I know I was telling my therapist today actually. I was like, I'm the person that I can get my. This is why I love podcasting so much. I'm the person. I think there's two people. I'm the person who would much rather talk to you face to face because I know that what I want to get across, I can get out through that medium best. I know some people, like my girlfriend, who can get out her emotions, her true feelings with no bias from anybody else out through a letter. And the reason for this is just my theory, is that if you grow up in a household where you are always told you're wrong, or if you grow up in a household where you have to hide your emotions because you don't want to spark somebody who might be mentally unstable and is going to attack you, or you always protect your real emotions, you don't want to talk face to face because they might pick up on your facial expressions. But through writing, you don't, when you're reading something, you can put down the words that you want and no one else can take them any other way. I think you can get your points across, and you're not changing what you're saying to protect somebody else. You're putting it all out, and it's all on paper. And so making phone calls scares the hell out of me because, like, I'm the person, I rely so much on facial expression. I require a lot of, like, body positioning and where you are in the conversation, like your vocal tone. And so, like, phone calls scare the hell out of me. I've always had an insecurity with my voice. I never liked my voice on a phone call either. I always feel like my voice just makes me sound dumb, and a lot of that has to do with, like, my childhood and always, like, having a speech impediment for a long time, and it's always made me feel embarrassed. Anyways, I pick up the phone call, and I talk to this therapist, and she's like, so what's going on? I tell her, and after I tell her, she's like, when are you free? And I tell her as soon as possible because I literally had nothing going on. Because I just started working again, and I was just working in the evenings. I was free all day. And this is before I was starting to look for a new job at the gym. And so I meet her, and my first impression is it's like right next to like a food, not a food store, like a seafood store, like a place where you can buy seafood where I live. Not like grocery, not like a grocery, not like a restaurant style. And I pull up to this place, and I pull up to this place, and I go in, and I meet her, and we fill out a few papers, but nothing crazy, nothing too much. And for me, for my experience with therapy, and I know this because my girlfriend's gone, I've always thought of it as just like a negative place and like a weird place where they don't really care about you, and you're just a customer, you're just a client. And at first, like, my first thought ever about therapy is, why the fuck would you go? Like, you figure it out on your own. And that's what I did. That's what I thought. Thank God I dropped that stupid idea what therapy is. And like I said before, I think it can be that way for a lot of people. I wasn't at a corporate place. I wasn't at a doctor's office like surgery lights, and I wasn't at a place that looked like low ceilings, white walls, white ceiling, hand sanitizer, fucking, a weird counseling place. I was at a house, I was at a business, but there was like a living room, and I started talking to her, and I immediately fall in love with therapy because, like I said before, for me to figure out things, I had to say the wrong thing, and I have to say the wrong thing many times, and then I have to be like, oh, that's not that what you just said messes up the equation, like, that's wrong, and I have to do that. Whereas some people can just think and be like, that's wrong. That's wrong. Don't do that. I have to do the wrong thing. Like, I have to make those impulsive decisions. And so as I'm talking to her, she doesn't even ask me any questions. She's asking me what's going on. She might say, yeah, okay. And 3-4 sessions go by, and about an hour session, 45 minutes to an hour session. And like I said, I had no money at the time, so I was making money, but I didn't have money at the time. So an hour session for just a little copay, I was like, hell yeah. And I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't expecting anything. I was just looking for somebody who would just listen to me. And I didn't want a guy. I also didn't want anybody who I had any connection to, because and that's why I struggle talking to friends, because I don't want any biased opinions. I don't want someone to know me. That's why it's hard for me to talk to people that know me, because they know who I am, or at least they know who I was, or at least they have an idea of who I am. But they don't know who I am, because I don't know who I am, and I is always evolving for everybody. So being able to talk to somebody who knows nothing about me besides my first, last name, what I tell them, and that I have insurance, that's all they know, that was beautiful for me. Some people get nervous about that. I get so excited about that. Like, when this gym is reopening, the gym I work at, which by the time this video is up, I love it. It looks beautiful. I'm super excited to work. It's like Christmas morning for me. But as this video is up, Foundation Fitness is reopened, and you guys can go there and work out again. And if you haven't signed up, you should come sign up and work out with me. Quick little plug. Also, you should go check out Silence Fitness to pick up some workout gear. Quick little plug again. Also, follow this podcast. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so she knew nothing about me. So I knew she wasn't going to give me bullshit answers. I knew she wasn't going to have to fight for more sessions, because she was getting her money either way. And I knew that she just didn't have like a plan, which I liked. It wasn't a questionnaire. There wasn't anything in particular, and it was just talking, and it helped me so much. And there was every session there was something new. Every session I had something to think about, which before that I would never think about anything. Like, I was thinking about things that were outside of me, but I never took the time to think about me. Like, I never thought about Like after I did something, why did I did it? Where did it come from? Why did I not choose this other option? Why did I do what I just did? And what was the ramifications of that? Did it hurt the other person? Did it hurt me? Should I not have done it? Do I regret it? Like I was breaking down so my life just completely changed from that moment forward. I was still depressed as hell and I was still sad as hell, but I was recognizing my actions and my impact on the world and how that reflected on me. And then things just started to come together after that. And I went there because of me. And that is something that I think is so damn important. I was talking to a buddy yesterday. I was like, dude, you have to take care of you. You have to take care of you, because if you don't take care of you, no one else is going to take care of you, because everyone's trying to take care of themselves. We're selfish, right? Our species is selfish. We want to put ourselves first. I think the only other relationship we don't do that is a very strong romantic relationship and a relationship with a child. But I was talking to my friend. I was like, do you have to put yourself first? I know how it feels when you make people feel good. I know how it feels taking care of people. I know how great that feels, but it's fulfilling. But that's the bad part, is that it is fulfilling. But what may not be as fulfilling but is more valuable is to take yourself and put yourself first, and to take care of yourself, and to go into the unknowing parts of your body. The parts that you don't want to go to because they're dark and they're scary. And it takes somebody who doesn't know you, or it takes someone who does know you but is not afraid to tell you what you don't want to know about yourself, to fix that, to adjust that. It takes looking, if you're in hell, it takes you to turn around and look deeper into hell and see what's behind you and see what you could end up going to, and see what you're what you're not experiencing, and to see where your life can take you if you keep on going down this path. You have to develop a plan, and you have to put yourself first. And I did that. I went to therapy. I took care of that. I grabbed my life by the balls, and I fucking sacked up, and I went. And I started figuring things out, and I started connecting the dots, and I started finding my insecurities. I started finding things from my childhood that are still affecting me to this day. I started figuring out my extreme levels of immaturity in situations. I started understanding my guilt complexities. I started understanding how what I say and do affects so many more people than what I think, and how it affects me, and how lying to myself, and how lying to myself, little lies build up to just crush you. Then you don't feel any confidence. And I eat everything from like eating disorders, from just being overweight, from having a childhood that was just so unique, how that made me see the world in a different way that I think most people my age, like I grew up with cops, and that was just different. It was just different. I was raised by my parents, but I had so many grannies, so many babysitters, and I thought that was like completely normal, and it was, and I wasn't mad at anybody. And it's not, and that's another thing, it's not about being resentful. Once you start putting together pieces, it's not about that at all. You don't feel that way. People may think that you might feel that way about them after you're going to therapy, because people don't want to know that they messed up. It's not that they messed up. What's happening is you are just trying to take care of yourself. Because here's the truth. I'm going to grow up one day and I'm going to have a family. I'm going to mess my kids up, right? You're going to mess your kids up. We're all going to mess something up. We're going to mess up a friendship. We're going to mess up a relationship. I mean, you might be watching this podcast right now after an argument with your significant other, with someone that you know, or you will, or you're going to piss your boss off, or you're going to piss your parents off. You're going to piss your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your best friend, or you're going to piss yourself off, and you're going to fail, and you're going to succeed. You're going to do these things, and it's not looking at them and trying to figure out what to do next time, but it's trying to figure out why you took the action that you took. Does that make sense? Like, I can tell you all day, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. But there's wisdom and there's a true understanding, intelligence, and a way to strategize yourself. If I teach you why you, or if you try to learn why you did what you did. Why did I do what I did? Why growing up did I not want to physically fight another kid for getting bullied? But I had so many friends that would, but I didn't, even though I was a bigger kid all the time. I always wanted to turn the other cheek. I always wanted to walk away. I didn't want to fight. Where did that come from? Why did I do that? Is it because maybe I just was scared to fight? Or is it maybe because growing up my entire life, my dad was always telling me these stories about how he grew up fighting, and how he always told my sister and I how he wouldn't be upset if we got in a fight as long as we didn't start it. Did I, for some weird, childish, immature reason, look at that and wanted to separate myself from my dad, as every son does from their father, as every daughter does from their mother? There's a point in everybody's life where you want to separate from your parents to find yourself, and I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy to do that. Was that just a way I was acting on that thought? If I don't fight, that makes me separate from my dad. I don't know. I don't know, but I think that's important. So let's say, hypothetically, I do get in a fight. Instead of a guidance counselor saying, what are we going to do next time? And you're going to say, not fight. Well, next time you may not fight, and the time after that you may not fight, but the time after that you may have to fight. You may end up fighting, and you didn't have to. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't fight, but I'm saying, what if that guy's guidance counselor said, why did you fight? You know what I mean? It changes everything. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you make that decision? Why did you not make that decision? Why did you not walk away? Oh, because that guy was looking for a fight. Was he? He didn't have to find it with you. You see what I mean? You gave into it. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have to fight, you gotta fight. But all I'm saying, this is just a quick little example. And that's what it did for me. And after a few weeks, a few months or a few weeks of going, I learned basically I had to put myself first, and that's all I can control. And I did that, and I found a job I wanted, and I enrolled back in school, and I was crying myself to sleep, but I was not crying out of pure sadness. I was sad, but I was crying because I was going through a journey that was all about me. And that was only about me. It was about nobody else. Damn. It was about nobody else. And at first I felt this sense of just pure selfishness. Pure asshole-ish. Like, you're being an asshole. And then I just started crying because I was like, Jesus Christ, man. This feels good. But I felt so guilty for it feeling good that it broke me. I started not doing things that I didn't want to do. I started doing things that I only wanted to do. And now, a year later, I only do things I want to do. Rule number 2 in the 12 Rules of Life by Dr. Jordan Peterson. Dude, after 8 years of school, I'm going to tell you, doc. I used to be the kid, I was like, I'm not going to call you a fucking doctor. No, if you are a doctor, you earned that shit. I can't even get through a whole year of school without dropping out. So guess what? You're a doctor. Rule number 2. Don't do things that you hate. don't do things that you hate. It's not saying don't do things you don't want to do, but don't do things that you hate. Or better yet, what he says, don't do things that you will regret. Don't do things that you will be embarrassed about. Don't do things that will make your eye suffer and feel insignificant. And I was taking a tally of my life at the time, and I was like, or a few months ago, I was looking back at my life then. I was doing a tally in my car because I would listen to this book to Taylor's place in Blacksburg, Virginia, and I was taking a tally, and I was like, wait, I was most things I was doing in my life, I didn't want to be doing, but I was doing. Like, I didn't particularly want to be working at the job I was working at. I particularly didn't want to be going to school. I particularly didn't want to be working as much as I was. I particularly didn't want to be overweight, but I was doing them all. And I didn't want to say yes to everything that people asked me to do. I didn't want to, but I was. And through therapy and through mindfulness and through me just sitting there and putting myself first, I started developing this new wave of understanding that you don't have to. And I didn't have to, and I didn't. And now I can say honestly, and I was telling my therapist this today on September 18th, I think you guys will watch this like the 20th or the 21st or whatever. And I was like, wait, I don't do anything I only do things I love. And I like, or I have to do. There's nothing I do that I hate. I don't work as many hours as I used to. Because I hate that. I don't say yes to everything that people ask me to do because I hated myself for doing that. It's a should of lack of control. I hated that. I not putting on an excessive amount of weight because I hate that. I'm controlling my impulses because I hate when they control me. You see what I mean? And I think that's what it taught me. And from there, it just allowed me to feel more comfortable with who I am. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's something that everyone can achieve. It just takes a little bit of work. And guess what? I'm lucky as hell. I'm not going to say I'm not, but I'm lucky as hell for what I'm given in this world and what I've created for myself. But I do truly believe that there's hundreds and hundreds of people out there, and I would say at least 10 people watching this right now, that your life can be completely changed in a year, like mine is, like mine was, and like mine currently is, and like it's still going. If you look at your life and you try to figure out where you're putting yourself in there, and if it's not number one, what you want, you're never going to achieve. And that's just the truth. You have to put yourself number one. And guess what? By putting yourself number one, everybody else respects you more. It makes all your relationships better. It makes you better with yourself. And that's why everything around you gets better. Because you're not lying to yourself. And you're showing comfort to yourself. You're being kind to yourself. Which makes you feel more confident. And it makes you feel more fulfilled. And it makes you feel like less of a liar. And it just comes off better for people. So yeah, I mean, that was just, I wanted to just cover that. I really want to tell you guys that backstory of what was going on and why I did what I did and why I chose to do what I did and why I choose. And people don't ask me, but I ask myself sometimes, like, why do I share so much on the podcast? Why do I share so much about my life? I mean, this is episode 26. That's at least an hour or a full day of me talking, probably more. It's probably like an hour or a day and a half of me just talking. Right? Maybe not. Maybe it's probably about 30 hours of me just talking. And I've talked about a lot of things. And you've heard a lot of things from my dad and from my mom and from my friend Charles that are very sensitive topics. And you've heard a lot of things. And I ask myself sometimes, why? Why do I do this? And my first answer is because you like to hear yourself talk. And that's not the answer. That's not the real answer. But I say that because the same way I used to make fun of myself of being fat before anybody else could, even though they wouldn't make fun of me that I was fat. I say it's because I want to hear myself talk because I feel like that's what people think about it. But I don't think people do, especially if you watch them. Because I don't. And I don't brag. I don't talk. I do. I don't talk about my passions through this podcast. I don't talk really about that. I don't push my businesses. I don't push my clothing brand. I don't push my workout programs. I don't push any of that stuff. I just tell you, I give you like a briefing on my life, which I love. And that's why I think the podcast is doing well. I think that's why you guys enjoy it. I forgot what I was saying. I think that was the first time I cursed this entire podcast. But I think the reason why I enjoy this podcast, I think the reason why I do this podcast every day, and it's 1 o'clock or 12:30 in the morning right now. I got to be up in 4 hours. I think 5 hours. I think the reason why I do that, and I make those sacrifices, is because more than anything, and this sounds almost self-conceited, and this sounds just funny how we start here and we go back to it, full circle, I do it for myself. It's so therapeutic for me. It's to work things out on a mic, and I'm not afraid to say something that may hurt somebody else because it might be hurting them because it's the truth. You see, if it didn't hurt you, then if you couldn't relate to it and you didn't understand it, then most likely you can't relate to it. So if it does hurt you and it does bother you, you could probably relate to it, and you should probably that could be your diving point, your diving board into finding what that is. Why do you get so upset when I say something about being a pussy or walking away from a fight? Like, oh, fight that motherfucker. Okay, let's figure that out. Let's be a man. Let's be a woman and figure that shit out. Let's figure that out. Like, why do you shut down all the time when your mom yells at you? Let's figure that out. Do you have a voice? Have you ever felt like you have a voice? Do you feel any separation from you and anybody, especially your mother? Let's figure out these things. Let's open our mind to these things. And that's what this podcast does. It allows me to just do that. It allows me to just figure things out. Figure out things in my head. And I have no fear of saying something on here that might bother somebody else. Because if it does bother you, I think it can help you. And I think I can work out thoughts in my head. And like I said about the letters, some people get it writing. Some people get the feelings out writing. I do this thing called like a 30-second brain dump every once in a while. If I get really anxious and I just cannot fucking put any of my thoughts together, it generates thoughts. 30 seconds, I just put anything. I just put pencil in my hand. I just write anything down. Anything and everything down. I call it a 30-second brain dump, and I just write anything down. And then it sparks. I can ask myself why I wrote that. But I won't figure things out just by writing it out. Even when I'm writing, I'm talking the entire time through my head. But that's why I started this podcast. I mean, that's in essence, that's the reason why. Because I wanted to formulate my own thoughts. And this is my second go at a podcast. I don't think a lot of people would know that, but I started a podcast before called Michael Lab's Life and Experience, Thoughts and Experience. This is just called the Michael Lab Show, and you can still find the other one. I think Michael's Life and Experience, Michael Lab's Life and Experience, Mike's Life and Experiences, something like that. And that was just, I recorded that on my phone as I was driving in my car to places. Sometimes they were like 2 hours long. I mean, I was just talking, you can hear me like hitting speed bumps. You can hear like my turn signal. You can hear me like speeding up as I'm merging lanes. And before that, it was commentaries for YouTube videos. And then before that, it was workout videos by myself. And before that, it was workout videos with my friends. Like, I've always had to communicate with people. I've never had stage fright. I get nervous, but I go up there and I do really well. I love talking. And I'm finally at a point in my life where I feel comfortable saying that. I think that comes off as being very selfish, but I've always wanted to be the person that you put on the front line before you go to war. I've always wanted to lead the troops. I've always wanted to be the person who has to fall for everyone else to follow. You know, that's always been me. I mean, that's my personality. I'll put myself out there, and guess what? If I go down, you'll learn enough so you won't go down. But motherfucker, I won't go down. I won't go down because I'll figure out a way to improve on it. I'll figure out a way to improve on it. But yeah, so looking back, this past year has just been a whirlwind, and I couldn't ask for anything more. And I feel like, and I say this all the time, I don't know about on the podcast, but I say it to myself and to people I know that these cactuses are dying. I think I might need to give them water. I don't say that. I definitely do need to give them some water. I love these things. These are my babies, girl. I love these guys. These cactus are so beautiful. I tell myself all the time, like, damn it, I shouldn't start talking about this fucking cactuses. Shit, what was I saying, dude? Oh, yeah. I always say, like, this past year, I felt like I have elevated myself by 30 points in every part of my life. 10 points, whatever your scale of points are, max it out. I truly feel like that. I feel like I've done everything and anything I could, and I'm so proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm congratulating myself, and I'm happy to be here and be able to talk to you guys. I'm happy I didn't act out on any of my extreme dark impulses. You know, I'm happy I was able to find peace in things that weren't peaceful. I was happy I found love, and I'm happy I found self-love, and I'm happy I found the people in my life at the time I really needed them. And I'm happy that they were there for me, and I'm happy that they're still there for me, and I'm happy that I'm there for them. And I'm happy I'm there for myself. I'm happy I'm there for my parents, and I'm there to just talk to people when they need someone to talk to them. And like I said, I will be having guests on here. It's just, for me, I just need to feel comfortable with it. I need to feel ready for it. I don't want to have a guest on here and just have it hit the fan. It's hard to have guests. It's not hard to have guests in the sense that if it's hard to have guests where I have guests. Like, I have it in my bedroom in my parents' house. It's not easy. You know, it can be uncomfortable for the guest. It can be uncomfortable for me. It can be uncomfortable for my family. It's an uncomfortable environment. You're looking at a trash can and shoes and unfolded clothes and fat pictures of me. Like, what the fuck, dude? It's fucking weird. I have a bed that I want to get rid of. I just don't need it anymore because I sleep in the guest room. I'm sidetracked. I digress. Yeah, so when I'm fully ready. But I do want to go ahead and end this podcast. Probably get about an hour into it. I just checked. When I'm going like this, I'm checking my audio machine just so I can see where I'm at. But I do want to give a big thank you for my dad being on this podcast. That was a episode for the ages. I fucking loved that episode. I learned so much about him. I can recap on that in an upcoming podcast. I probably will. I wanted to do that today, but I didn't find time, and it is currently 12:21, and I got to be up very, very soon. 5 hours. It was incredible listening to him. A lot of like entrepreneurial stuff that I didn't know that he had, and I didn't know where it came from for me. And just there's a few things that he said, like where I went when things were dark was partying. Like that, like what he said. Was it good that he partied? No, I don't think so. But was it good that, because in my head, when he told me the way he dealt with things, he just wouldn't deal with them. Not because I know going to the parties, you're not dealing with them, you're running from them. But I thought he just wouldn't do anything, just act like it didn't happen. At least partying, you know there's something there and you're running from it. But if you're gonna act like it's not there, then it's not there. You know, so I liked hearing that. I wish it wasn't that, but I did like hearing that there was something. And I think for a lot of people who don't have fathers, who've lost their fathers, or who don't have a really good connection with their father, trust me, that was my father and I for the longest time. You can probably tell through that podcast. If you have a really close relationship with your father, you can probably tell. But not that we've grown apart, we just grown. And he's going through stuff with his father and Alzheimer's and stuff. So it can be hard, but I think that podcast, even the one to my mom, it's beautiful because you can. It's good for people who have struggling relationships with their parents, but it's also good for people who have relationships with their parents. It's good for everybody, honestly, to hear an older person talk. I want to say thank you for Charles coming on. I love talking to him. I wish I could just get a fucking mic on him and me without him knowing that we're doing a podcast, because the talks we have in private are fucking amazing. I'm going to get going, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Episode 26 is now over. If you guys are on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you guys are on audio, please rate, 5-star rating, comment, share this podcast, the Michael Lab Show, with at least one person you know in your life. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Have yourself a beautiful day. I'll catch you guys in episode 27.